Well, the results are still coming in on Election Day 2019. 10 proposed amendments to the Texas Constitution were on the ballot.
And a lot of folks expressed interest in Proposition 5, which has to do with funding for Texas Parks and Wildlife and the Texas Historical Commission. All of the votes in this one, Prop 5 passes with 87% of the vote in favor of it, only 13% against. So what exactly will Prop 5 do? Well, here's our Seth Kovar now to explain. Seth.
Well, years ago, Lee, state lawmakers decided that sales tax money on sporting goods should go to Texas Parks and Wildlife. But they didn't specify how much of that pool of money. Proposition 5 locks it in at 93%, and supporters say that means more money for state parks. But it also gives the other 7% to the Texas Historical Commission.
Since the Texas Historical Commission has taken this on, it has become just a focal point for South Texas.
And Fulton Mansion would get some good news with the passing of Proposition 5. It would funnel all of the tax money from the sales of sporting goods into 2 state agencies. Lawmakers could no longer tap into it for other purposes.
They can steal from it and put it somewhere else, and so this is going to say no. 93% goes to Parks and Wildlife. 7% goes to Historical Commission.
It's the issue that drew Corpus Christi voter Amanda Horn to the polls today.
I'm an avid outdoorsman here in the state of Texas, and I just want to make sure our parks are funded to the fullest extent that they can be.
Now, Fulton Mansion wasn't one of them, but you may remember Parks and Wildlife transferred 7 such parks that have historical significance to the Historical Commission September 1st, hence their inclusion in Prop 5.
Parks and Wildlife agreed that they need help taking care of these parks and everything that have been given over to them because of the historic nature of that park.
And if enough people vote like Horn did, both agencies stand to gain.
It was definitely allocated strangely, and I think this is really going to help out our park system, and they're woefully underfunded right now.
And again, Prop 5 did pass. Now, Fulton Mansion has been closed as a tourist attraction since, take a wild guess, Hurricane Harvey left it damaged. Renovations are almost complete, though, and they plan to reopen December 14th. Katia?
That's great news. All right, Seth, thank you. And there were a couple of other statewide propositions that we were keeping a close eye on. Among them, Prop 3, which would allow a temporary property tax exemption should the area where you live be declared a disaster area. That passed by a wide margin, as did Proposition 4, which will prohibit the state from creating a state income tax, and Prop 8, which called for the creation of a flood infrastructure fund, passed by a healthy margin. If you want to get a good look at the results of all the state propositions, just go to our website, christv.com. The big issue on the ballot in Nueces County, though, was a $9.5 million bond proposal. If approved by voters in Drainage District 2, officials say the money would be used to control flooding in Robstown. 6 Investigates' Randall Cam is live in Robstown now with the results of that. Randall?
A cutty of voters here going to the polls to decide if they wanted to pay more in taxes to improve drainage. Now, bond, of course, is simply a loan, and it would have to be repaid back by the taxpayers here in Robstown. Now, one of the main problems all that money would fix is along Bosquez Road here in Robstown. This old drainage ditch just can't handle heavy rain, and that can mean flooding along the road, around the high school, and in the Bluebonnet subdivision. So, what did voters here decide? Well, here are the results. It was close, but the proposed bond voted down by less than 100 votes. So what happens now that the bond has been shot down? Well, commissioners here with the Drainage District say they have applied for grants through the Texas Water Development Board, hoping that money, if approved, will help fix their drainage problems. And we are live in Robstown tonight. I'm Randall Cam. 6 Investigates.
All right, Randall, thanks for that. And another race that Robstown was closely watching is that for the mayor's seat. And it turns out that race is going to be decided in a runoff election between Gilbert Gomez and Mandy Barrera. 4 candidates in all were in that race, but no one got over the required 50% of the vote. So a runoff will be held in that race.